music. We've got a countdown going. We're live on the air. This is the lounge portion of the show. Fans of our version of Hive Talk Live and Locked On Hornets will be very familiar. I've changed the lounge music because of copyright. Our lounge was not legal, and it was keeping us off Spotify.
That's a shame. Only the illegal lounges are the cool ones, but I guess we'll have to make do.
Right. This is not a speakeasy. This is now a legal establishment. All right. I'm publishing our show to Patreon. How you doing, David? You seem a little stressed. You had some issues with your headphones.
Yeah, you know how it is when something doesn't work as you're accustomed to it working. Never had the AirPods Pro fail me until, well, that's not true. They will fail you, but they failed me today big time. We're gonna figure that out though.
That's right, and we're gonna start this show. I think that's the key thing. We're gonna unmaximize the rundown. So welcome to This Is Not a Serious Hornets podcast, now on Spotify, Anchor, and a few other places. We are working on getting it on the on Apple Podcasts. I will tweet out a link, a URL link that you can manually add it, but I expect it to be added as soon as possible. I'm Doug. I'm joined by David every week. We want to start the show with some shout outs to our Patreon page because, David, this is a listener-supported show. Everything that you are seeing and hearing, we do a live stream. It's on YouTube. Everything that you are seeing and hearing is supported by our patrons. And I want to shout out some people who have been supporting the Patreon page since 2017, since we first started the Patreon page in support of Locked On Hornets. So shout out to Lamont, shout out to Jason Hollingsworth, a shout out to Nick D, shout out to Ashton Powell, Dwayne Willis, Garrett Weiss, Mitch Benson. These are the OGs, the Dougaholics for sure. We've got some newbies too. Lee Boone decided to send in a pledge thanks to this new effort that we've put together. And Alex Warren updated their pledge to $3. And also, we'll see if I can make this work. I want to share this sick thing that he sent us on Twitter. Yeah, here we go. Booyah. Let's see. Got to put that on the screen there. Oh yeah, look at that.
Hoppin'.
Dave Hoppin Skybox card.
Skybox, man.
I remember Skybox.
I found some Skybox over the weekend. If you check my Twitter page, I did a little thread for a little card thread, Doug. Cards are back, baby.
Well, okay. Well, tell us what you found.
I found several Michael Jordan cards, which those are good. He seems like a popular player. I'm trying to
what year? I mean, what year? We're talking prime Jordan, young Jordan.
There's an 86 card in there.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Do we need to get these? Do we need to get these valued?
We do not know the terms for cards right now, do we? It's not called valued. I think they're called. What do you get them rated? You send them in, send them somewhere. Are you familiar with like what's going on in the card world right now?
I know that everything collectible is big, and we talked about this on the last show. And I've got some things to talk about in terms of card ownership later on in the show because it's what drove me off Twitter this week. But I do know that all things collectible, whether they be digital or you can actually hold them in your hand, are huge right now. And so what I'm asking you, David, is do we need to get this rated so that we don't even need to be Patreon supported? You can support this show. You can be our one and only patron via that 86 Jordan card that you have, that gold mine that you've got in your closet.
Now I also have I think this may be valuable just to the people talking and listening on the microphones right now. Eddie Jones rookie card. Okay. Talk to me about that Eddie Jones rookie card. Maybe the greatest shooting guard of all time.
Well, see, I was going to say that card is way more valuable to you because you are
just me.
You are way higher on Eddie Jones than I think about just about anyone that I know.
Other than Eddie, yeah.
I'm high on this Hoopin card, though. Dave Hoopin! I love this card. You got the short shorts. The ball is on fire. That doesn't seem safe for Dave to be holding a basketball that is literally on fire. But Dave must have just hands made of non-flammable material, rubber hands.
Well, and I also found a Larry Johnson rookie card. It's a famous rookie card where he's on draft night wearing the hat, bending over, doing, kneeling over or crouching over the microphone, doing some post-draft interviews. So you may remember that one. Just some real gems, Doug. And of course, the commemorative ticket for the first game ever of the Charlotte Hornets. You may have seen that one. I think I got a like. I think I earned a like from you.
I did see that. I did not see the whole thread, but I did see that. I liked it because I have the commemorative ticket from when the Hornets returned. And so I just love those kinds of things. And I don't know how valuable that is, David. And I don't think my commemorative ticket will ever be like super valuable other than to me, to my heart. So that's great. Are you ready to talk about some Hornets, David?
Let's do it. I'm so ready to talk about these Hornets. I've seen them in person. We'll get there, but I've seen them up close.
Yeah, so a lot of home games this week. Of course, this was the week that the Charlotte Hornets invited fans back to the stadium. Limited number, lots of rules, which I'm sure David will get to in a moment. This first game against Detroit fans were not allowed, but people were allowed in the building. I believe it was 500 first responders, people who are on the front lines. Novant Health, I think, was the partner here. And so you did have some people in the stands. Nice way for them to kind of reintroduce that idea, kind of test it out, and allow those people who have been risking their lives to help other people, give them a chance to watch the game. That was cool.
Yeah, great move by the Hornets there. The Novant Health folks were in the house. They got free T-shirts, they hooked them up with new tees. So just
I survived the 2020 pandemic, and all I got was this stinking Hornets T-shirt.
Yeah, but I thought that was a good touch, and just to have anyone in the building obviously is kind of cool. I will tell you some things that I did miss being back in the building. Let me know when you want me to give you the rundown of just how things went. We can jump into that at the Toronto game maybe.
Yeah, I think, let's save that for the Toronto game coming up, but I am super interested. I don't have much on this game other than the fact that the Hornets really did win this one ugly. I don't think really either team shot to their potential. Detroit didn't shoot terribly, 44% from the field, 32% from beyond the arc. The Hornets somehow won this game despite shooting 40% from the field, 33% from beyond the arc. Terry Rozier knocked down 3 threes, and one of them extremely clutch when the Hornets were up 2, kind of trying to hang on for the win at the end of this game. And this is not the not the last time this week that Terry comes up clutch. I mean, he has been their go-to player at the end of games.
Really carving out that role for himself on this team, and every time he does it, I don't know about you, Doug, but every time he does it, instantly, whether I want to or not, I'm comparing him to Kemba. And it's not fair to anyone. It's not fair to me. It's not fair to the fans. It's certainly not fair to Terry Rozier, Ferry to Terry. But it's inevitable because he is, I think, the guy that wants the ball in the clutch, wants to make those game-winning shots, much like Kemba, but just has a different like kind of nastiness. I don't know how else to describe it. You know what I mean? Like Kemba was just such a soft-spoken guy and leader, and still is. And Terry just seems to step up in these moments and make these shots. Kemba certainly did too, but Terry seems to have a real knack for it.
Kemba did, but I think if you remember, David, like towards the end of Kemba's run in Charlotte, he really was less often the player that would have the ball in his hands just by virtue of the fact that defenses keyed in on him so much and were allowed to because the Hornets did not have other shot-making threats. I think that's what makes it cool about Terry being so good in the clutch is that he doesn't really have to be the guy that has the ball in his hands. Like Gordon can go and make plays. LaMelo Ball, obviously, I think is going to be a player that in the future, as we move on through the years, that the Hornets will look to knock down clutch buckets. So they've got, and Devontae Graham, who is back. Yeah. So they've got options.
Yeah, and that's the lineup they went with last night. We're skipping ahead a little bit here, but JB's going to that lineup, offense heavy, 4 guys that can shoot, create, and handle the ball. That does give them an advantage at times. Of course, they can't play that way all the time, but in those certain situations, it's really useful. Came in handy again in their most recent game. But you're right. I mean, you have Terry and Gordon out there. That's two guys. That is what separates it a little bit from, of course, Kemba's time here too. So those guys all developing at the same time to be able to hit those shots, create for other people and themselves is a real difference maker.
So I've seen Terry twice this week be clutch for the Charlotte Hornets, but my question was, how clutch is he respective of the rest of the league, or in respect to the rest of the league? And so I did look some stats up here from stats.inpredictable.com that does a great job of really breaking down clutch shooting opportunities, and they have sort of different levels of clutch. So they have clutch and they have normal, which is sort of like towards the end of the game's kind of close, and then they've got clutch, and there's all these factors, but then they've got clutch squared, which is like right at the end of the game, you got to make a play. You're only up 1 or maybe down 1 or down 2, and you've got the opportunity to win the game. And so I pulled these stats up, and by far, so far over the season, Terry Rozier has been the best clutch player for the Charlotte Hornets. He's shooting, in terms of the percentage of his shots, they're league average. So he's taking the same amount of clutch opportunities as we've seen around the league. But his percentages are so far above league averages. So the league average in the normal period, by definition of stats.inpredictable.com, is 46.6% effective field goal percentage. Terry is at 58.9%, so 12 percentage points above. When we go into the clutch period, it's 45.9% effective field goal percentage. Terry is at 67.9. That's nearly a 20 percentage bump. And here's the kicker, clutch squared. Again, those end-of-game moments where you need a bucket. League average, 37.5%. Terry, 70%.
Wow.
He has been massively clutch. There's no one really even close to him on the team. I think, well, Malik has some pretty close stats, but he hasn't had the ball as much as Terry in those opportunities.
Yeah, and in-game struggles or cold patches don't seem to affect Terry Rozier. If whether he's hot or whether he's gone through a bit of a cold streak during the game, he still wants that ball and he's able to deliver. It's just another notch on his belt for him.
So I'm ready to hand out the first award of this episode. It's the Manual Transmission Award. It's going to Terry Rozier because he knows how to use the clutch. So he gets the manual transmission award. I don't know how to drive stick. So I always respect people who do, including Terry Rozier, who knows how to use the clutch.
I can't either. Go ahead.
Okay. You can't, really. I honestly expected, I thought that you
I appreciate that.
would know that.
Well, that's the image I like to put off, but it's all a facade.
Isn't it? Wait, that's interesting, right? I feel like that is a thing that people exude. Like I meet people and I go, you probably at some point learned how to drive stick.
Right.
It is just an attitude that people have. Okay, next segment we're calling, Did Michael Jordan Attend a Hornets Game This Week? David, did Michael Jordan attend a Hornets game this week?
Yes, he did. The aforementioned Detroit game, I believe, with all of his Novant Health friends in there. Of course, MJ is just doing nothing but opening hospitals and treatment facilities at this point in time. So he brought some of those folks in to honor him. So it made sense that he was there for that night because they had some important people in the building.
Well, that's an interesting sort of byproduct, right, of him doing great things for the community. Among a lot of great byproducts, one of them is that I think people let him off the hook for not being as involved with the team, in that sort of Mark Cuban-esque way. It's sort of okay when you are so philanthropic and so involved in the community. It's not like he's not a part of the city of Charlotte. He just doesn't attend a lot of games, and that's okay.
Yeah. Well, at one point in time, he was getting criticism for being too vocal or maybe being at too many games or not sitting in the right place. So, it's almost like he can't win at times, but I think it's still special, when you're there, or, I mean, look, they featured it on TV and we'll talk about it a little bit, but when he's in the building, it's amazing. There is still, a palpable buzz and attention on him, especially now, like where they're sitting. It's so odd. Everything's spaced out, of course. They're separated, but he's literally like sitting in it's a throne basically.
That's true. There was a funny tweet from one of the local news people in Charlotte, and was like the mini reactions of Michael Jordan. And it was just the same reaction. Like, I felt like it was just him standing up and clapping for Terry or clapping for someone else who got a bucket. And I don't know if that was the joke. Maybe I just missed the joke, but I just felt like, because it just went through a series of them, and I was like, no, it's just the same thing. It's the same picture.
It read like, they were capturing, his roller coaster of emotions, but he's just a guy watching the game. He's always been somebody who's kind of gotten into it, especially
just a normal guy,
just a regular Joe watching games, watching his team out there. But he still gets into it. You can tell, but it's a little bit turned down now, just because it's obviously a different atmosphere. But remember, he used to chomp at the refs and remember he smacked Malik Monk on the back of the head that one time when he took a silly shot or something. And
he doesn't come to many games, so when he does, he has to make a mark. You got to let him know. Okay, a lot of attention paid to his reactions, and some attention paid to what he was wearing on his feet, his foot candy, which brings us to a recurring segment now, was in our last show, called Shoe Ought to Know. You ought to know. David, MJ wore some shoes on TV, and you apparently, as the Nike app says, got them.
It's amazing. I was able to get them, which is not an occurrence that happens often these days. It's become almost near impossible to get shoes on the sneakers app. But these were the Jordan MA2, whatever that means. It's a new silhouette, Doug, this is why this was a little bit, of a buzz about this on Twitter when they showed him. That went viral on social, as the kids say. And so what's new about this shoe is that it's not like a retro. It's not something that he wore in his playing days. It's not something that's usually very hyped up. But maybe because he wore this shoe and, went a bit viral, it sold out the next day. Is that a big deal? Everything sells out these days, as I mentioned, but I was able to grab one. I'll let you know how comfortable it is. It better be the most comfortable thing I've ever put on my feet, because it's a new silhouette, and that's what they're pushing. But anytime you see MJ wear those, or anytime he's there, you're paying attention to it almost as much as people pay attention to what Roy Williams is wearing these days and his games. But MJ, of course, he's out there wearing a new silhouette. It's going to draw some eyes.
So what is a silhouette?
A new model. Sorry, like a new model. Yeah, not something he's worn before, or something that's brand new.
You could have. I'm just pointing out that you could have just said a new model. That silhouette feels like a word invented by sneakerheads.
Well, then my sneaker people would, they would know that
you would lose sneaker cred.
Exactly. I gotta keep that. I gotta keep that facade up. I got so many facades. I'm juggling facades over here.
You're a facade juggler. Okay, I want to read some of the marketing on these shoes. Please. Because I always find this marketing speak hilarious. The all-new Jordan MA2 delivers big-time comfort packaged in a bold silhouette, featuring dynamic design lines and wildly diverse materials. The looks blends heritage-inspired elements like visible Nike Air with forward-thinking aesthetics like deconstructed tongue tags to forge a fresh identity that stands on its own.
It sells itself, really, if you can get your hands on it. So, very excited for those. Also, I don't think they got enough attention. Pants, a little slimmer, there was some slimming down of the pants. I don't know if it was a nice sweat pant. It looked like made of some sort of, I'm sure, the finest fleece in the land, but it did taper down to the ankle.
Well, I'll say that means that Michael Jordan is just like us. He's decided, okay, this is a universe where comfort beats style. Now, look,
comfortable and stylish, of course, but
right. And Jordan has had a style in the past, and it has not really matched everyone's style, but he has definitely made some style statements. And now he's saying, look, I'm projecting now because this is how I feel.
Sure.
Comfort over everything at this point. I have a button-down shirt right now, but I'm not wearing any pants. This week
right.
in Hornets, we got to get to this Toronto game. Blowout city for the Charlotte Hornets. I think they played this one on a Saturday, and I have to play this because I loaded this in. Actually, no, I took it out. There was a great clip of Eric Collins saying Saturday night's all right for hooping. You'll just have to imagine him playing that because I actually took it out for something else. But that's okay. I can play this instead since I queued that up and didn't have it.
Sorry about that. That's a bad mistake.
But we do have some sounds here. I want to just kind of run through some of the old sounds that I put on here because I think they're hilarious. We'll get to that in a moment. But let's talk about Toronto. They were missing half their team due to COVID, or at least half the production of their team. I think this was sort of expected. The Hornets do bring fans in the stands, including David Walker. So let's just talk about that. Your experience getting back into Spectrum Center.
Yeah, I will say when they first announced fans were going to be going back, I mean, I was a little hesitant, was not full on in, but then once, tickets started floating around, people going in there choosing their seats, getting the old feel back for the Seat Geek and the Ticketmaster app. Yeah, I got invited and went, Doug. And from entry to exit, they've got this thing planned out where they ask you to show up within certain windows, depending on where your seats are, go to a certain gate, depending on where your seat are. Everyone does a screening beforehand. You can do that via your handy Hornets app, of course.
Oh, boy.
You can do everything through the Hornets app. So
you're going to get your vaccine through the Hornets app.
They bring it right to your seat. So you go in, you can do it pre, or you can do it when you get there, either one, but you got to show. It's kind of like when I drop the kids off at school, you got to show them a green check mark saying we're good, no fever, no cough, no anything. And so once you're there, this experience during the pandemic with limited fans, I'm just going to say it, Doug, it's the best game going experience you'll ever have.
Whoa.
Okay?
Oh my God.
There's no lines. There's no lines.
Okay.
You can get up from your seat, go to the bathroom whenever you want, because, basically everyone has their own private urinal or stall. Take your pick. The concessions, there's barely any lines. They're still pushing you towards the mobile purchase of your concessions, Doug.
Sure.
That's one thing that they're going to have to get ironed out a little bit. But, for the most part, they are monitoring the seats. They've got folks walking up and down the seats looking for people that are not wearing their masks correctly.
Oh boy, yeah. Hall monitors.
Yeah. And so that's one thing we did want to talk about. We had a little kerfuffle. A couple guys in our section just missed the memo after the last 12 months of people wearing masks. And we're baffled.
Hey guys, I don't know if you saw it on the news.
Yeah, there's only signs everywhere. So that's the people who I really felt pain for were the great arena workers there, that basically their whole job now is to babysit people and remind them 3 and 4 times to put their masks on.
Is alcohol being sold?
Oh yes. Alcohol is
to
being
me,
sold.
there's a conflict there, right? I mean, of like behavior, wanting people to behave in a responsible way.
Yeah.
And serving alcohol. There's always going to be sort of natural conflict there. So talk about frontline workers. Got some arena workers that are going to have to deal with that as crowds size increases.
Yeah, they're doing their best. And they also have guys that are going up and down the railings and wiping them down like once a quarter or so. So
which is fine. And it probably kills some germs, but this is
they're doing their best.
They're
doing what they can.
To me, that's performative. And I'm fine with it. I'm fine with it if that, but I don't know that it's really increasing or decreasing transmission.
Well, one guy was wiping him down, and a guy from across the aisle called him over and just put his hand out, and he gave him a little wipe. He gave him a wet wipe 5.
That's an assist. I think they recorded that as an assist for the team.
So all in all, I mean, I think a positive experience. Keep
That's
your
good.
mask on. You can, if you're eating or drinking, you take it off, put it right back on. Just remember to go in there, wear your mask. If you're going to the game, if you don't want to wear your mask, don't go to the game. Just wait.
Watch it on TV. Watch it on a big screen TV.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Last night, went again, but I was like, something is missing.
Back for more.
No. Obviously, the fans are not there. The environment's a little different, but you know what I was missing?
No.
those EC calls, those Eric Collins calls. I mean, on the dunks, because the energy in the building's not there. But I'm used to having it via Eric Collins and Dell, and you don't get it when you're in the building. So that's a little bit different.
You got to go old school. Get a little Walkman. Well, you could hear the radio call that way, or just have it popped up on your. I don't know how see, that's the thing too. That's another benefit. I bet the Wi-Fi is great because the Wi-Fi was always trash because there's too many people. I mean, there's just no way they can get Wi-Fi to work well in a building like that when the building is full. But I bet it was great.
Yeah, they need some sort of communications partner, like a Spectrum or someone like that to help them out. Speaking
of what went in the stadium, because I'm watching via my streaming service of choice, which I'm not going to say on the air because I'm afraid that it will go away if I say it. Is not.
We'll talk about it at some point. We're going to talk. We have to. We're going to talk about
after
it
this season. Let's wait till the end of this season. Let me just get one beautiful season before the cops break down this guy's door and take it away from me.
We'll never.
So I'm watching this, and it gives me the in-arena stuff on the breaks.
Mm-hmm.
And they did like a segment of rock, paper, scissors as one of the Hornets entertainment pieces.
Yes.
And I just have to say, like, I appreciate you trying to provide some entertainment for the number of fans that are in the building, but I feel like you've had a long time to prepare for this, and there could be a little bit more interesting stuff than rock, paper, scissors. But I'm going to counter my own argument and say that maybe there were some issues with getting that entertainment with the social distancing and the things, but at the same time, rock, paper, scissors seems very kind of mild on the entertainment scale.
Well, they also had two people doing some sort of spoken word association or something at one point. That was also very awkward and weird. I don't know if you caught that. I think they're doing the best they can.
All right. Well, speaking of people that are doing the best they can, this Hornets team right now, I think this is the best that we've seen the Hornets play all season, or at least the gutsiest that they've played all season. I just want to run through some of my notes here from this Toronto game. They hit all the threes, the Hornets did. I mean, wow. They just came out with a completely, I think, different attitude than they got into the Detroit game with. The energy was way up. Defensively, they were causing steals. They were getting out into transition. And they just had a great shooting night, and including talk about guys running the break. I mean, PJ Washington, David, running the breaks. I mean, this has been a new innovation for him and something that I think has helped kind of turn his season around.
Yeah, I mean, you think back to the beginning of the season, came in a little out of shape, not quite ready to go from the get-go. So maybe he's getting his legs underneath him. You think that All-Star break help these guys at all? I mean, just to kind of get away and get refreshed. All-Star break plus fans in the stands plus the Raptors G League playing them the other night with all those guys out. I think that was beneficial for them.
And Kyle Lowry, who's surprisingly old. I just never realized how long Kyle Lowry has been playing. Like, this is his 15th year. I mean, it's crazy.
That's insane.
Hey, we've got a Welcome Back Cotter Award to give out to Devontae Graham.
Welcome back.
Yes.
Yeah, Devontae, man, he is playing well. He is dropping shots. I don't know, this break, just like I said last week, I thought that, losing that momentum at the end of last season, I think affected the way he began this season. I think this just little break for him has reignited him and kind of shook out some of the things that happened early this season, and he's back and better than ever.
Isn't this ideally what he would be? A instant offense type guy off the bench, but that can also fill in a pinch when you need to and run your team. I mean, that's what you got from him last year. You saw he could run the team. I don't know that he's that guy for good forever, ever. But if you can have him come in, and last night he struggled in the first half, hit a bunch of threes in the second half, and was part of that closing unit. So, I mean, that is the best case scenario here for Devontae Graham. And I mean, it's going to be a problem if Devontae and Monk keep, being inconsistent. It's going to be a problem for Mitch. But right now, that's a good problem to have.
That's exactly what I was going to bring up, is that you have two players that are really similar in Graham and Monk and what they can do for your team. So they will have to address that probably in the offseason. But it makes them such a problem offensively. I mean, it makes them a internal problem defensively, but it makes them really hard to keep out of games because you've got these guys that are just able to light it up and regain momentum for your team. I've got another award to hand out, David, to the hard way, not three the hard way, to the hard way. And that goes to Cody Zeller. In the third quarter, Cody Zeller ripped it away from Stanley Johnson, got on the fast break, nobody around him. This looked like a classic Godzeller moment. And Cody launches and barely gets to the rim for a knockaround too. His Hornets teammates gave him a hard time. How did you experience? Do you remember that play? How did you experience that in arena?
Shocking. I mean, I was shocked because I was expecting a patented Cody Zeller tomahawk, with plenty of lift, with plenty of
emphasis on the tom. It's like a tomahawk.
Yeah, but I think what I diagnosed it as a long way to run. He got that steal around midcourt, and I
just getting back.
Yeah, just getting back into it. We've all had that where you go to jump and your knee just says, "Not today, not today, Cody." So hopefully that is not a sign of things to come. I mean, I don't know if Mitch, peered up from his laptop or iPhone on the sidelines there and was like, "Whoa, that's not optimal." But I think Cody, gave it his all on that one. Hopefully, we'll come back and show us some more.
Raptors gave a few punches in this game, but it just wasn't enough, and it got so boring at one point I went down a Wikipedia hole and ended up watching the entire Jam music video featuring Michael Jackson and Michael Jordan.
Macaulay Culkin?
Culkin was not in Jam. Culkin was in Black and White.
Yes.
Come on, David.
Well, there's pictures of the three of them. I guess they were just on set one day.
Well, they were just friends.
Okay.
What?
No, yeah, I know they were all friends.
It got so boring this game did that we got an appearance from what I'm going to name these guys. I'm going to give them, because it's a quartet of players, and I'm going to call them the B-Siders. What do you think about that?
I get it,
B-Siders. Nick Richards, Jalen McDaniels, Vernon Carey, and a player that I'll be honest, David, I did not know was on the Charlotte Hornets roster. Sure. I haven't been that plugged into the Hornets. Nate Darling, and he was a darling little baby player out there.
Well, you've seen him. You just thought he was one of the staff or like the ball guys or something. I mean, that's what he looked like. I thought he was actually Grant Riller, who was another Hornets draft pick, but that is not him. That was Nate Darling. So my apologies to little darling Nate. What'd you think? I mean, okay. When that lineup went in, was there anyone that you were like, all right, show me a little something?
So I think Vernon Carey is the player to me who's out of this group. I've seen a lot of Jalen McDaniels. I know what he can do and what he can't do.
Yes.
And I think unfortunately, I feel like what he can't do is going to prevent him from really finding a spot here in Charlotte. Now, he's most likely to end up like Christian Wood, that goes on to become a monster and slip out of the Hornets' hands because they aren't patient enough. But I think Vernon Carey, to me, out of all these guys, maybe Nick Richards, but Vernon Carey seems to be the player that's like, oh, in 3 years, if he keeps, moving and progressing, could be a dangerous big for this Hornets team.
And he was, top 3, top 5 high school player in the country.
Physical player. I mean, that's the thing. The Hornets need physicality. And I'm going to give another award to Vernon Carey, the Bloodsport Award, because he did send Chris Boucher to the locker room with some inadvertent chin music. He's just a physical player. He slimmed down a little bit, but he's just not afraid of contact, and that's what the Hornets need. I mean, that's what they're missing. If you just point to one thing they're missing, it is that physicality, especially around the rim.
So let me ask you this, Vernon and Nick have had some success in Greensboro, not unlike someone like Dwayne Bacon in years past, even Malik Monk. Mm-hmm. Are we there yet where you can say, ooh, look at these numbers in Greensboro, we can see that translating in Charlotte? I don't think we're there yet as far as the developmental process of just instant transfer. Because those guys, now if they're not going down there and dominating every other night, then that I think is a major red flag at times. But I don't think you can just translate it right back to Charlotte when you see something going well in Greensboro.
No, and I think what the Hornets would point to is that Nick Richards and Vernon Carey especially did not have the luxury that a lot of players in their position would normally have in terms of a training camp and a summer
14, yeah.
league,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then more time in the G League than they're getting right now. So I think that's, you got to factor that into both of them when you watch how they develop, and you're probably going to have to, and it's not just Carey and Richards. I mean, this is going to affect a whole slate of NBA prospects, probably into next year too.
Yep.
You've got to just give these guys an extra couple of years to really make solid evaluations.
Well, that's another question I have for us. Thinking about it this week, Mitch is approaching this, I'm assuming, like every other season, but it's just not. I mean, you take the Hornets team specifically, they weren't in the bubble, right? So you're seeing a lot of these teams that were in the bubble, even struggling to begin the season, tired or not getting their legs underneath them for a while. And it's like, how do you adjust your grading? I mean, how does Mitch as a GM adjust what he's going to try to do? How far do you stretch the possibilities for this team? Do you he's been pretty conservative thus far, but do you just be conservative for fear of doing something that maybe this is the tip top for the Hornets? Maybe it's not quite real, you know what I mean? But like, it's where we are, and it's been so much. The pandemic has created so much uncertainty about what you're seeing. I mean, you see guys that were great in the bubble that came out and were not their bubble selves, or vice versa. So it's just with the Hornets, like, you have no idea. I still don't think it's on like everyone is on the same level, just because some teams were in the bubble and some weren't, and then you just don't know. You haven't been through a training camp, to your point, so it's not been the normalcy of a traditional cycle in the NBA offseason. You know what I mean?
Right. I mean, I think they have to. That's why I'm on board for them making a playoff push, because I just think you have to recognize that you have
Give your shot,
a superstar in the making, and you've got a time limit on that, possibly, and you just have to make the most of this weird situation. And a lot of teams are not playing well that I think in a traditional season would have been playing well. And so I think there are going to be some opportunities. I still think this is a 5-seed team. Been saying it all year. I think now they're 2 games above 500. I think this is a team that's got a shot. And I think they have to pursue that and see what comes of it. First of all, I don't think there's any turning back at this point. So if you wanted this team to, unless, pending several injuries to their best players, Rozier, Hayward and Ball, but pending, except for that, this team is going to be good enough, I think, to at least get a legitimate playoff spot. This is not a 9 or 10 seed, I don't think. No,
and the other thing on that, Doug, is you mentioned they've been relatively lucky with injuries, but also COVID protocols. They're within their own team. They haven't been hit that hard. They had to pause on a couple. I mean, that's going to be the big test over the second half of the season, when they're playing so many games in those few nights that they are. And the other thing that's interesting about this whole thing, all this extra stuff these guys are going through, all the protocol, twice a day testing, you're going to see some of these teams, and you're probably already seeing a little bit of, like, a team like Toronto. I wouldn't blame them if they just said, screw it. I mean, they haven't been home. They're in Tampa.
Yeah, big surprise that half their team's out via COVID when they've been playing in Tampa.
Right. So, like, the Hornets they're on a good streak now. Everyone seems to be in good spirits, but you can see a lot of these teams, especially as we approach the end of the season, just imploding because they're sick of this whole deal. They're sick of going through the protocols. At one point in the game the other night, they've got this cool down area that players, when they come off the floor, separate from the bench, they go sit in. And a couple of the players in the fourth quarter were sitting in there, and they shouldn't have been. And it was so weird. Mitch Kupchak had to come over and basically ring them back to the bench. So, I mean, but like, that's the stuff they are going by the letter of the law and all this stuff, and it's just rigorous. There's something way out of the normal. Yeah,
and there are going to be factors that are just so strange that probably affect seeding, like the fact that the Hornets have been generally good about staying out of COVID jail. And now that could change. So my 5-seed prediction goes out the window if they have a big COVID outbreak and have to, miss several games, several key players. And so I I think you can point to Miami as a team that's also suffered because of that. So we'll just have to keep an eye on it. We've got a lot more in this show. We've got to talk about this Sacramento game that happened last night. We're recording this on a Tuesday. We've got some data to look over. We've got, we got to figure out how close LaMelo Ball is to passing Michael Jordan's records. And we've got some more awards to hand out. So before we do that, though, I want to talk about what drove us off Twitter last week. There's always something. There's always some mind-numbingly stupid thing that happens on social media that drives us off Twitter. David, what's yours?
Yeah, real quick for me, Coming to America, the sequel to the original Coming to America, is fine. Okay, I'm just here to tell you, it's a good hang. If you like the characters in the first one and you want to see, basically the same story told over again, it's there for you. It's not going to.
Shouldn't we embrace that, by the way? Why are we attacking that? In this COVID, pandemic era,
Right.
Shouldn't we crave just comfort food? Just get me to the end. Just get me to the finish line.
That's exactly what it is. If you want to see all those characters from the first one again, see what they're up to, this is the movie for you. If you wanted it to break ground and be something that
Which
would
apparently,
change
I
the course
guess,
of history, it's
what
not
you're
it.
saying is Twitter wanted that.
Some people on Twitter desperately wanted that, but I think it's good for what it is. It's great to have Eddie back, and just enjoy it. And
They
Arsenio
wanted
and
Coming to
everybody.
America to get some Oscar buzz. I mean, what were they?
Exactly, I think so.
What were they expecting?
And it's a great streamer too. I would have been a little disappointed had I watched that in the theater, but great for the home.
They wanted to see it alongside Minari. Coming to America, Best Picture. Not going to happen. This is what drove me off Twitter last week. I saw a tweet describing a company that allows you to invest in sports cards, shares of sports cards.
That's what I'm saying.
Like you can stocks. You don't get to own the card. You just own a share of the card that someone else owns. It's called, I'll say it. It's called onlyalt.com if you want to go check it out. But just do it for laughs. Don't actually be a part of this company because that's insane. Or do it. If you hate your money, go ahead. You know what? If you hate your money, give it to us. That's a much better investment. Patreon.com/HornetsPod is a much better investment than investing in a sports card that you will never touch and that someone could lose in a fire. It could just be gone. People are just, they have just sort of extra cash on hand.
Yeah.
And there are all of these people coming out of the woodwork to take it from people. Don't let these people take your money.
Yeah, we like money. We have some. We'd like some more. That's where you guys come in. Hook us up. This is a new one. I didn't know where you were going, but I didn't know you could actually go in and get portions of cards.
That's it. Yeah, that's all you get. You get a portion of a card. I guess if the card sells,
You would recoup, I suppose.
I don't know. It all seems like a great way to lose money. So there it is. That's what drove us off Twitter last week. If something drove you off Twitter last week, let us know on Twitter at Doug Branson LOH or at David B. Walker. Okay, let's get into this Sacramento game that happened last night. Final game of their homestand that is leading into a 5-game road trip that is looking a little dicey. They've got games against Denver back-to-back, then going to LA to play the Lakers, then the Clippers, Spurs, and Rockets. So that's going to be a tough trip. It's nice to end with the Rockets.
Yes, it is.
But that's a tough sled. So they really needed a win in this one. And boy, they made it interesting, but they got the win, David. Sacramento came into this game possessed. I mean, they did not like how they lost that Miracle After Midnight Part 2, and they were determined not to let it happen again. But unfortunately, Marvin Bagley fractures his hand, and the Hornets come away with a victory after being down 6 or 7 with 5:38 left in this one. They still managed to win the game. I don't know how, but they did it.
I don't know how either, because at one point I looked up and they had 66 points in the paint to the Hornets 40 some odd, and that was toward the end of the game. So yeah, Bagley went out, but Holmes was in there dominating. I don't know if they could have gone wrong with anyone in there, because the Hornets just could not stop them from getting to the basket at all. De'Aaron Fox had his way, but of course he's going to be a problem any night. So you think this was a little pay or attempted payback? You think Luke Walton put some bulletin board material up for them before this game?
Oh, I think so. I mean, I think Luke Walton mentioned it before the game that they talked about that last game coming into this one, and that they wanted to,
Hit their free
listen.
throw.
They're a healthy team before Bagley got hurt. Honestly, I think if Bagley hadn't got hurt, they probably would have taken care of business. To be perfectly honest, because after Bagley goes out, you really started to see the Hornets. And props to Borrego, who recognizes it and says, "Okay, we're going to slam the ball inside." I mean, Gordon Hayward was just matchup of the night was Gordon Hayward's ass versus Tyrese Halliburton. There were just so many opportunities that they got Gordon one-on-one with Tyrese, and he's just a little guy, and so Gordon was able to take care of business, and he got that big bucket at the end of the game on that kind of play, just knocking him out of bounds. The Hornets, at times in this game, they can't keep shooters in front of them, but they are physical, especially on the offensive end. If they could translate that physicality offensively that they have, for example, Miles Bridges knocked Bielitsa out of this game, just manning up, putting his shoulder down, knocking Bielitsa out of the way, and getting buckets. Walton was like, "All right, I got to pull this guy." Got too small, and Bridges and Biyombo and Zeller just using that size to help get some things going inside when the shooting wasn't there. They just can't translate that for some reason to the defensive end.
They can't. Like I said, they have trouble keeping anyone in front of them, and the Kings got to the rim a lot last night. And of course, I mean, when you got Buddy, Harrison Barnes, and Fox out there for the Kings, that's three pretty good options right there that will give you problems, not unlike the Hornets when they've got some of their guys going. But I thought that it was interesting, the Hayward Barnes matchup when they're matched up against each other. I never realized how similar kind of their games looked with their ability to hit and score kind of in that mid range and just being solid. So that was a fun one. But yeah, I mean, Gordon, man, you're not kidding. They were coming out of timeouts, drawing up set plays for him to just plant himself on the block and get a layup, and that's a real luxury when you can do that.
You were at this game, correct? So
yes.
You didn't see EC. Eric Collins was obsessed. Anytime Harrison Barnes touched the ball, he was obsessed with calling him the Black Falcon, which I guess is his nickname.
It is his nickname going back to his days in Chapel Hill, and my dad texted me that during the game. So
it just says it.
Shout out to Dad.
Yeah, shout out to Pops, local TV legend.
So he did a lot of Black Falcon, a lot of name dropping with the Black Falcon.
Yeah.
You know why he named himself that, or he gave him that moniker to himself?
Those are the best nicknames.
Whilst in college.
The best nicknames are the ones you give yourself.
Yes. Well, it's fitting because I believe it's a takeoff of the Black Mamba, which Kobe Bryant infamously gave to himself.
Harrison Barnes is a player I feel like who he's going to walk away from the game someday, and you're just going to be like, yeah, Harrison Barnes, good player. But that's it. I mean, he's never been an all-star, but he's never been a bad player. He's always just had great contributions for his team. But for whatever reason, just has not. But also, he's a player. This is why I say he's good player, because no one's ever going to say. I don't think many people are going to walk away from Harrison Barnes' career and go, "Wow, he really didn't live up to his potential." And maybe part of that is the fact that he didn't live up to it in college. So,
I think Warriors fans killed him for his performance in game 6 of his last stay there. But he's made a couple stops, and now he's in Sacramento, so it feels doubly kind of under the radar. But he is quietly the talk of the trade deadline with a lot of teams right now. I think
because he's playing well.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. He's a good player, and he needs to be the fourth option somewhere.
And NBA champion and also gold medal winner, Doug.
It's kind of similar, I feel, but see, it's not similar because, again, Antoine Jameson had a huge college career.
And he had huge moments in the league as well.
All right, so it's not similar.
It's close.
It's close.
Sorry about that. That's a bad mistake.
Okay, time for another segment we like to call Take That for Data.
Take that for data.
I've got I did finally do the research and figure out how the Hornets stack up via the social media. I looked at their Twitter and Instagram. No surprise, LaMelo Ball, the leader in the clubhouse by 1.5 miles. He's got 6.5 million followers on Instagram and 817,000 on Twitter.
We're getting there.
Yeah, so he's way ahead of everyone. I would say next up, Gordon Hayward, 1.3 million on Instagram, 667,000 on Twitter. Terry Rozier, not T-Row the Hero, not on Instagram, but he does have 166,000 Twitter follows. Devontae Graham has quite a following on Instagram, 254,000, and then only 30,000 on Twitter. This is a theme that I noticed as I was compiling these numbers. For example, both Bridges and Monk have around 390,000 Instagram followers, but they're both hovering around 100,000 followers on Twitter. So you have about 3 times as many followers typically, except for Ball, who has more than 6 times. But it looks like, either 2 or 3 times more followers on Instagram. So that apparently is the place to be.
And TikTok is you didn't wade into those waters.
I'm scared. I'm scared of
terrifying.
Chinese listening devices.
I'll grab some 12-year-old off the street. That sounded incorrect. To give us a TikTok.
Don't. Why do you?
Don't do that. I won't. To give us a TikTok rundown. Or my wife. She's very heavy into TikTok. Sends me links that then go to the interwebs.
See, I'll open the TikTok link. I won't necessarily. I'm not going to join TikTok. Okay, let's talk about some screen time. How much were the Hornets on the court this week? Gordon Hayward leading everyone, 33.5 minutes averaging this week. Terry Rozier, LaMelo Ball, P.J. Washington all getting Rozier and Ball had 29 minutes, P.J. Washington 28 minutes, Cody Zeller and Miles Bridges each around 22 and a half, and then you go down to Graham, Biyombo, Monk. That's your bottom half of the rotation, 19 minutes, 18 minutes, and 17 minutes respectively. Cody Martin getting a little bit more twinning. He twon the week. He got 13.2 minutes to Caleb Martin's 6.9 minutes. Nice. So that's your screen time, and that matches up to me. I think that all that play time makes sense. Maybe a little bit more for Bridges, I'd like to see, but it's tough because you got to get size in there. You got Cody, you got Biz. They're already playing small. But I'd like to see a little more from my man Miles. He's playing well. Yeah,
they had PJ in with that kind of 4-guard lineup, if you count Hayward as a guard, at the end of games. And that was one thing some people that we were with commented on. They wouldn't mind seeing Bridges in there as well, but they got to feel more comfortable a little bit with PJ at whatever you want to call it, stretch 5, small 5 position for now.
I really did my research this week, folks. I've got a crazy stat for you. The win against Detroit late last week was the 11th win in a row versus Detroit. You probably knew that because Eric Collins brought it up a lot. It brings the all-time series even at 58 apiece. So they needed 11 wins. They were 11 wins down when this streak first started. But this is not the first 11-game winning streak against the Detroit Pistons. From April 1993 to November 1995, the Hornets won 11 straight games against the not-so-great boys, apparently. They were not the bad boys. And then the last time that Detroit won was October 2017. David, I've got a list of things that happened in October 2017.
Yeah.
It was the beginning of the hashtag #MeToo movement. O.J. Simpson was released from a Nevada prison. Donald Trump took paper towel jump shots into a crowd in Puerto Rico. I don't know if you remember that.
I do.
National Party of New Zealand found guilty of breaching the copyright of rapper Eminem's publisher and ordered to pay 413,000 New Zealand bucks for use of the song Eminem-esque.
I did not remember that.
Nope, that was one that I just kind of dug out because I thought it was
I thought you were
funny.
going to say you made it up. Either way.
I didn't make it up.
Okay.
But all in all, I mean, I think October 2017, that was just like a period of time when all of the news was bad. And not a lot of news has been great in 2020.
Yeah.
But I just feel like a lot of news in 2017 was just not great. I looked for good news, and I couldn't find much.
It was a tough game.
No context, Eric Collins, he did an interview with Scott Fowler last week, and Scott asked him, "You've called several hundred Hornets games by now with your partner Del Curry. Remind us what year you started in Charlotte." Eric Collins' answer was, "It was 2015. I came into Charlotte with Frank Kaminsky and Nick Batum, and I outlasted them both. And then he laughs.
That's
which
a
I have sound of.
Now, do we think Scott didn't know, or he just wanted Eric Collins to voice when he started?
I guess he didn't know. I don't know why you ask a question like that. If you know the answer, you would just say you started in. Maybe I don't listen. I'm not a skilled columnist like Scott Fowler.
No.
I don't know what his game was there, but it did get us a funny answer that he came into Charlotte with Frank Kaminsky and Nick Batum, and he outlasted them both. Very true. Fact check.
That's
true. And listen, as a broadcaster in Charlotte, staying more than 1 year. Is fantastic.
Listen, I had a discussion about that, about our famed duo there, Eric Collins and Del Curry. And Del, man, just continues to live that charmed Del Curry life. He just finds himself in fantastic situations.
Come on,
bounces off Eric Collins. And just keep your head down, guys. We can't lose anymore.
All right, let's move on. How close is LaMelo Ball to passing Michael Jordan's records? This is an important question that we must ask. Right now, LaMelo Ball has played 38 games in the National Basketball Association. Michael Jordan played 1,072, spanning over his career, 85 to 2003. Right now, LaMelo Ball leading the GOAT in three-point percentage. A lot more attempts, 5.3 to 1.7 for MJ. 38% for LaMelo Ball to Michael Jordan's 32.7%. He's got some cushion there, David, on the three-point percentage. Much better than I think we thought he was going to shoot this year.
Yeah. I think as long as he keeps working his way to MJ, sky's the limit, Doug.
And look, he's averaging an assist more than MJ did over his career. He's right there in rebounds, 6.2 for MJ, 6.0 for LaMelo Ball. Now, Michael had a few more points than LaMelo does. He was averaging 30.1 points per game over his career. LaMelo Ball right now at 15.8, but to be fair to LaMelo, he did play part of the season off the bench. Now that he's in a starting role, I think that's going to change. If you look at the totals, though, LaMelo Ball, 599 points. He's about to score his 600th point.
Oh, boy.
Michael Jordan, 32,292 points.
You think they'll stop the game, give him a game ball when he hits 600? Probably not.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Who had a worse week than the Hornets? New segment we're debuting here on the really the first episode. The last episode was episode 0, was our test episode. Who had a worse week than the Hornets? I've got a list here. I'll throw in Andrew Cuomo. Definitely had a worse. The thing is about this week, to debut this, the Hornets had a great week. So there are a lot of people that had a worse week. But I think Andrew Cuomo had a worse week than the Hornets. You got one, David?
MSG Security, tough go of it, not recognizing our old friend Patrick Ewing and winning the Big East championship there. Do we know how much of that was real? I mean, how much of that was actual? Because how do you not recognize, my main man Pat Ewing?
I think it's that situation where you recognize someone, but then you also don't want to get fired.
True.
And it's a really tough. He's probably like. His boss was like, "You don't let anyone through. I don't care if it's Jesus Christ."
Or Patrick Ewing.
He's like, "Oh, damn it."
He's like, "And what are the chances?"
Oh, no. Ewing, by the way, of course, was an associate head coach under Steve Clifford for the Charlotte Bobcats and Hornets.
Yep.
And he had one of, props to him. Shout out to Patrick Ewing, who's got Georgetown into the tournament, looking good. And as in his first year as head coach, he gave us one of the greatest sound bites I've ever heard from, just in-game basketball.
Step back one-legged. What kind of shot is that? Have you ever shot that shot? Do you work on that shot? When?
The thing is, LaMelo Ball shoots that shot and makes it. And that's when you know you've got a superstar. That, to me, that's the bar, is Ewing's description there, and if they actually hit it.
Yeah, basketball's changing, Doug.
Duke basketball had a worse week than the Hornets. They are OUT out of the tournament because of COVID. And COVID has had a pretty bad week. Vaccines are up, at least in the United States. Things are moving in the right direction, and we hope they continue to do so. So we'll update you each week on who had a worse week than the Charlotte Hornets. Finally, I've already shouted out Patrick Ewing, but let's hand out some other awards. I've already given the Welcome Back Cotter Award to Devontae Graham, the Bloodsport Award to Vernon Carey. Gold, silver, and bronze, David, what do you think here for the gold, silver, and bronze?
Yeah, I'm just going to give out my gold medal. I mentioned them earlier. All the arena staffers whose main job it is now to remind people to wear their masks more than a year into the pandemic. So salute to those people. We appreciate it.
All right, I'll go to the on-the-floor performance, and we'll go to Terry Rozier in my mind for the gold medal because he came up clutch in 2 games, including that game. We didn't really mention it when we were talking about that Sacramento game, but Gordon Hayward threw him an absolute grenade at the end of the game, and close game, and he knocked it down. Terry, as I mentioned earlier in the episode, one of the most clutch players in the NBA, and certainly for the Hornets. So props to Terry for that. I'm going to go silver medal LaMelo Ball. He was the best player in that game against Toronto, 23 points, 6 rebounds, 9 assists. I believe I have that right. Could be 9 rebounds, 6 assists. Anyway, great game, and I think he played well really all week. And then bronze medal, I'm going to go with Gordon Hayward because he came up huge. We almost saw him in that sort of takeover mode that we've seen a few times this season. He's not, and this is a credit really to Gordon that he hasn't gone in that takeover mode. Like he's really been willing to share it with LaMelo and share it with Terry and PJ and Devontae, and that has benefited the Hornets greatly that Gordon Hayward hasn't had some like sense that he has to be the guy.
Yeah, well, everybody's getting to eat, right? And maybe some of
Yeah.
that's the benefit of LaMelo, but it's also the benefit of those guys being able to find each other. And we got to mention the breakaway steal and one dunk that he had over Fox to kind of put the Hornets over the edge last night.
His hair. I
know. A fantastic Eric Collins call. I did hear that one this morning on the replay, but I wasn't confident that he was going to be able to get that one through, but 2 hands on De'Aaron Fox was huge.
Look, they've got this team. This is kind of my final word for this episode. This team has got to play better throughout the game and not just save it all for the last 6 minutes as they approach this 5-game roadie that they've got, West Coast roadie. It's going to be tough. You've got it. This Hornets team has got to get it together, before the last 6 minutes of the game. But it's so nice to see so much of this roster. I can't think of a player on this roster that's not playing motivated basketball. Devontae Graham, Malik Monk, Terry Rozier, PJ Washington, Miles Bridges, Gordon Hayward, LaMelo Ball. They are all playing like their lives depend on it. And damn it, they can't play defense, but it's still a lot of fun.
Well, you never feel like you're out of it, though. As long as they stay connected, to their credit, now they finally have the talent and the shot makers to actually make a difference at the end in the clutch, as we've highlighted. But they've never stopped fighting. Credit to JB, but they're rolling right now. This West Coast trip, Doug, I feel like we just got done with the freaking West Coast, and we got to go back. It's going to be a doozy.
It is going to be a doozy, but we will cover it all next week. We're going to do this live stream, I think, at this same time. So if you want to join us live, Tuesdays, 10 o'clock in the morning, Eastern time. Listen, we all know you're working from home, so you can watch. Just put us up on the second screen. Mute us if you got to go do a Zoom. But check us out. And if you can't, we're up on several new podcast services. I know we're up on Google Podcasts. Anchor.fm. We're on Spotify. So if you use Spotify, check us out there. I'm working on getting us on the Apple Podcast app. You're coming along this journey with us, and we really appreciate it. If you liked any of this show and you haven't subscribed to our Patreon page, that's where you can support the show. That's what will allow us to keep purchasing the things that we use to make this show happen. But we're making it up as we go along, David. And
clearly,
it's only, if you've listened to this at all, you know that. It's only going to get better. For David, I'm Doug saying, go Hornets, go America, let's swarm. Charlotte, bye-bye.